Okay, I think we're ready to begin our tech talk today on NX part cleanup and examine tools. Now, questions will be answered live at the end, but please go ahead and enter them into the chat as they come up. Brian Fisher is our presenter today. He has 26 years NX Team Center experience, 15 years as a designer aircraft industry, 5 years design in medical industry, and 6 years of senior NX CAD application engineer. He has an associate's. He has associates of arts in business, Bachelor of Science in Business Management from the University of Cincinnati and Lair Engineering Apprenticeship Program, and a member of Delta Mu Delta International Honor Society. Wow, that's a mouthful, Brian. The welcome everyone, and the Tech Talk is now yours.
Thank you, Vicki. Yeah, a little bit too much education there. Never change your majors, guys. Never change it. So as Vicki was saying, today our presentation will be on part cleanup and exam tools. So as Vicki showed there, a little bit of my bio for those who don't know me. I've seen a few names on the list there that I recognize though. So for today on our agenda, we'll be looking at the exam geometry. We'll be looking at part cleanup, optimize face, replace blend, and hill geometry. Now, a lot of this, guys, can be done when you go to import a part. So here I am in NX. I am in the brand new version of NX, by the way, 2506. It just came out. The nice thing about this new version, I did not have to bring over my profile or anything. It brought over my profile for me automatically. But anyway, as I was stating, you know, when we go to import stuff, so let's look at an STL file, for example. Notice there's an automatic cleanup that you can do at that time. If we go in and we look at another one such as step file, you know, is what I normally tell individuals, you know, it's one of the better ones to bring in information with. Inside that step file, for example, we have optimized, smooth B surface and such. However, for today, we're going to be mostly just looking at these particular tools. We're going to act like it's an existing file. Maybe it's a file that you guys imported a long time ago. Maybe it's a complex surface file that's had a lot of cleanup, a lot of revisions done to it. Maybe it's a file that you're just having a lot of issues with. Sometimes, you know, you have files that for whatever reason seem to load longer, or if you try to do certain stuff, you may get errors. So you try to do a Boolean feature and it, you know, barks back at you and you're not knowing why. So the first one of the tools we really want to look at is exam geometry. Now, exam geometry, guys, it is an analysis tool. This particular tool does not do any of the cleanup itself. It just identifies the areas for you. So as Vicki stated, though, also, if you do have any questions, you can go ahead and put in the chat, or you can even just raise your hand. I'm a little bit different than some individuals that do a lot of these tech talks. I do mine live. I don't care about any recordings. I have a recording for this one a little bit that we'll be walking through, but I'll be talking over the recording, and then I'll also be jumping into NX. So if you have a question, just go ahead and, you know, raise your hand, and a lot of times I can jump to it and answer it. If I'm not able to answer it right now, I'll get to it at the end and we'll discuss it, okay? So with that being said, back to this, the exam geometry here, you can see there's a lot of stuff in here. We can look at body checks. We can look at face checks, edge checks, and such. If I go in here, I got a link here that I put up, and my link here is going to take me in the support center. Now, when I put this PowerPoint together, this was last week, and 2506 just came out this week. So it does say 2412 here, but I am going to be showing this in 2506. For those that don't know how to find new information, I have a lot of information on how to go in and see what's new also. So anyway, in this particular case, notice here it gives you a tip, and it tells you this is recommended to use on a regular basis. Regular use allows model integrity to maintain, reducing, you know, issues caused by invalid geometry. So I always tell individuals, if you're bringing in any type of information from another CAD system, if you're working on an old file that you keep on getting errors on and stuff, please run the exam in geometry, and it will help identify those areas. If we look a little bit farther here, that's the dialog box that I talked about earlier. One we look at a lot here is tiny objects. If you work in any surfacing, you will see tiny bodies. And there's a lot of stuff in here: self-intersection, smoothness, spikes, cuts. That's a common one. If I come here and look at the related topics, this digs deeper into what each of these do. So for example, we talked about tiny objects. Tiny objects are a necessary problem. They cause issues in downstream applications, such as CAM, especially if you're running like a toolpath on these and you're wanting to go in there and look at these tiny objects, because you don't want those to be there. Another one that really causes a lot of issue, guys, is the spikes and cuts. We'll be looking in one of the videos that I'm going to be running on one area that has a cut, and I'll show how we can clean that up. These spikes and cuts are areas that you need to look at. Now, again, like I said, a lot of this comes across when you're importing geometry. And it also comes across when you're dealing with older files that have had a lot of revisions done to them. If we look at one here, examining geometry for self-intersection, this is kind of a, generic way to go in there and actually look at and see if we have interference. Runs through and shows you, this is just, shows you step by step what you'd have to do. So let's go back to my PowerPoint here real quick. And look at the next one here, part cleanup. Now this particular one does make model changes or changes in the background, guys. One thing I like to point out in here, think of when you're doing an assembly. Let's say you open up an old assembly and you're getting all kinds of errors, problems, you don't know what's going on. Well, if it goes back all the way to unographic stage, it could be nothing more than you have mating conditions instead of assembly constraints. So what does that mean? Think of the new Sketcher, guys, for example. The new Sketcher has relationships. The old Sketcher had constraints. So what this does, it may delete some stuff. So you got to watch that when you're working with this. Notice we have three areas here. We have simple, moderate, and serious. And if you go and look at the dialog box, it even tells you simple, moderate, and serious. So what I always tell people when you're doing this, make a revision change or do a save as. If you know this part is used in several areas, if it's used in a drawing, an assembly, or if it's used downstream, make these changes with the revised part and make sure that nothing's changed that you don't want to change. So you got to watch it when you use part cleanup. Now, myself, I've used part cleanup on a lot of parts, like I said, that are, very complex surfacing. Now, the next area we'll look at is optimized face. Within optimized face, as you can see here, they use this command to convert these faces to analog faces on models that you imported in NX. This also is used a lot of times on the CAM side. Individuals, I know my particular manager, Tony, and also our director of engineering, Tony, he loves to use this when he's going in and he's, writing his toolpaths and stuff. Helps cleans it up. So let's go ahead and look in, I got a link for that also in here. And inside that particular link, you'll see it shows the exact example that I just had on my PowerPoint here. And you can see a lot of times when you bring in files from another CAD software, it may split a cylinder up. So you'll have two faces. In this case, it goes and it converts it to one face versus having those two faces to deal with. Optimized face here, this particular over here on the left, will walk you step by step how to do that and show you the tools. Optimized face dialog box. This talks about what it's used for. And notice though, optimized face removes parameters. So your model, it deletes the history. So you do need to watch that when you're working in that area. Notice here you do have your checks that I just talked about, the cuts and the spikes. And then the next one I have on my list is replace blends. Again, you bring this in from another software, you may get something that looks like this. If you go here and use your replace blends, you can get here and have yourself a smoother blend. You can inherit the radius from that face. Or you can go ahead and type in your own size. Shape match here. If you have several of them within your particular model, you can tighten or loosen that. This is nothing more than a filter that allows you to go and pick multiple blends at once. Again, I do have that as a link in here also. Notice it comes into our support center. This is a support center. this is the same as if I hit the help on the dialog box or if I hit F1 on my key when I have the part, the particular command open. Replace blends here. It just shows you again. The dialog box here shows you step by step. The replace blend dialog, it talks about the information here. And as I said, shape match shows how closely a face matches to a rolling blend. A loose match may allow a face with larger deviation to be replaced. The last one that we're going to show here, now don't worry guys, I am going to jump in NX here for soon. I am going to show a video also, so we do have a lot more I'm going to show. I'm just walking through what we're going to be seeing. So the next one here we have is hill geometry. And I do see, before that, I do see somebody did put a message in here. And let's see what all these issues can be found in the Checkmate exam geometry combo. Check. That is correct also. You're talking about Checkmate. So Checkmate is a tool that you can use that helps you on this particular stuff. But I will also be showing you how you can go clean some of this up. So a lot of this right now, for those that ain't familiar with Checkmate, Checkmate is a tool within NX that allows us to go in and tell what checks we want to look at. And I can show that in a few, but let's go through this first. And this is not just showing you the checks. This is also showing you how some of the tools we'll have to use to go in there and clean this up. So hill geometry here is one that is also used for tiny objects. So you can see here, we can set that tolerance. We can specify an output file. So this here allows me to go in and specify that file. But when I go to output it, it creates a brand new file. It's not going to clean it up in the file that you're in. It's going to create a hill geometry file. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and play this video real quick. You guys should notice that looks familiar from my screenshot that I had. And what we're going to do is we're going to run through some of these tools. And then I will do some live also. So the first thing we're going to do here is, notice I did already identify some faces here because those are the faces I'm going to mess with. Those particular faces, what our analysis tool is going to find. So we come in here, we do our exam geometry. Notice it tells us it is analysis on a solid face, edges, or other conditions. We can set them all. We can clear them. We can also turn them off and on just by checking them. We can check the criteria. We can make some changes to the tolerances there also. From here, once we decide what we want, so maybe we want have all these on, maybe we don't. In this case, we do. We're going to come over here, and with our quick pick, we're going to go and pick our solid geometry. Once we select our geometry, we can come in here and say examine geometry. And now from here, notice it says, hey, there's a result here. Highlight the results. Once we go and highlight the results, it's going to show up on our face of our model here. And we can see if that particular area we want to examine and look at. There's some particular problems in here. How do we know what those problems are? Well, because we just ran it on the exam. Once we decide, yeah, we're going to go and make some changes to this, we're going to come in and we're going to use our synchronous tool here, delete. Now this particular tool, I am going to turn off the hill because oftentimes with some faces like this, there's faces in the background or that are intersecting with this that may be causing the issues. Now, when we go to do this though, it is going to make it a sheet body. But we also notice right away, there's some additional faces that we did not notice. We want to go ahead and delete the rest of these. And if we zoom in more, we'll see, oh, we rotate it. We see, yeah, there are additional faces there that we want to get rid of. And we're going to go and apply that. Now we're just going to refresh it so we get rid of the particular, area that was shown us with the area that had an issue. Now, at times, you may have to add additional geometry. So anybody that attended my tech talk, might have been a month or two ago, I did one on surfacing. You'll notice that at times you may have to use additional geometry. In this case, we're going to go in and create another spline. The reason we're going to use the spline in this case is because our continuity, we want to add a G1 to this. Whereas if I just drew a curve across there, we're just going to get a straight curve. We're going to use that particular curve now, well, in this case, spline, and go into some surfacing tools. So once I have that surface in here, we're going to come in and, we have different ones here through curve mesh and stuff, but in this case, I don't need that. All I need to use is my fill surface. Within the fill surface, I'm going to go ahead and select this. And in the fill surfaces, you can pick curve edges and such. You can also come down here and inside there have a default for your continuity. I like to use G0 because later on you're going to be able to change it. I also like to patch it apart. Some people like to put the faces and sew everything, but I like to put it as patch and part. Once I go and select it, you're going to see there I do have the ability to change that on the fly over there, also to G1 or G0, G2 or 3. I select my spline. You can see also within there, it lets me know if it's an edge or curve. Now you notice those asterisks. That's telling me, hey, that's an area that we got to go in and add another curve or pick another edge or whatever. We come in there and now we can see we got our curve 1, edge 2. And if we want, go and make that a G1 also and say okay. And we put in our first face. So you can see there we went and patched it and cleaned that up. Now we have that big area we want to clean up. We're going to do the same tool here, fill surface. We do have other ones there we can look at, but for this particular one, we want to use our fill surface again. We're going to leave it on G0 again. And this time, we're going to be able to highlight it. Just go ahead and box it. Oops, look at that. We have some asterisks there. Why do we have the asterisks? Because the curves are there still. We don't want those curves. We just want the edges since it went and created these edges. From here again, we have our surface. Now we have the ability to go over there and look at our different continuity and decide what we need and what we don't need. So we're going to go through here and select some of these and make them G1. Then we're going to come over here and we're going to select another one. And we're going to try to do G0 on this particular one at the top. Now when I go to do this, and we go to G1 I should say, notice it gives us an alert. So at times, that's why I like to have it at G0 and walk my way through. You don't always need to have G1 continuity, depending on what you're trying to achieve. From here, notice I still have the patch and part. I go ahead and apply this. And now if we go and hover over this and go to our quick pick, you'll notice that everything's back to being a solid body. If we go and run our analysis now, and we go examine our geometry, and we go and pick our solid body, you're going to notice when we run it now, we have everything that's passed, and we don't have no areas that have concern. Now we're going to go into another one here, and we're going to look at a particular body here that is a scanned object, which we turned into a convergent model. When I go and clip my section here, though, however, you will see that there are voids in it. So you can see here, this was a scanned object that we brought in, and now we made it convergent, but there's still some issues there. There's areas that are causing this to have voids. So to look at this, we're going to go into our analysis, and we're going to go and run the exam again. The exam geometry. We're going to go ahead and pick our convergent body. And we're going to go and examine our geometry. Wait for it to process, and then we'll look at the areas there. We've got sheet boundaries and consistency. So if I go and highlight this, you're going to see the area there that we need to go and make changes to. You see it turn red down there. A little area right there. We have a little slither there, a little cut. For this particular one, because it is facet, I am going to go and use my polygon modeling. So these are some of my reverse engineering tools. In this particular one, I'm going to snip an area. Underneath here, I have different selections that I can do. Rough, brush, filled, so on, and single facet. I'm going to turn to single facet, and I'm going to go and actually select a little bit larger than just that slither to make sure I got everything. And I'm going to go ahead and apply this, and you're going to see that it puts a cut in there. So it went and cut that piece out. We don't want that piece. It's, got a cut in it, and could have been a spike also. You can go and get rid of them in that manner. But in this case, it is just a slice. Now we have this area. If we go in, we're going to go in and actually fill this in, but we're going to use our fill hole, which is also in our polygon. This allows me to go fill hole. I have different smoothness that I can do depending on what I need. You have linear, redefined, tangent base, curvature base, and so on. Now for this particular one, I'm going to use redefined. At times you may have to play with that. Put one in, see if it's your result that you want. Just look at, you can also show results before applying. In this case, I know the redefine usually works pretty good for me, so that's what I'm going to use. Now I'm going to go and select my facet. Now I'm going to go and select the hole I want to fill, and I'm going to go ahead and apply this. Wait for the system to go through. You can see down there at the bottom it tells us it's done. Now, due to this having a sketch that was attached to that particular area, we do lose some of that particular relationship. But now we can see we have a solid body. So if we came in there and we made those changes, and you can see that we were able to get ourselves a solid body by using our exam and our snip. Now the next one here we have is, you notice this is an imported geometry also, and it's split into two faces. So that's not what we want. We like to have that cylinder, as one face. We don't like to see it split as multiple faces. So we're going to use our optimized face here. Now, optimized face, there are some find interesting faces in dialogue, check faces, and such. However, in this case, when we say find interesting faces, notice it highlights that, but it didn't highlight those cylinders we want to have. So if I apply it at this time, you notice it does give us information, let us know what has changed, but you see it did not change those particular areas in this case. So let's go ahead and box the whole thing and just go ahead and apply it. Now you notice we have one surface versus multiple surfaces there. That's ideal. You don't want to have multiple surfaces if possible. So again, we used, the analysis, and then we just went in there and we used an optimized face in this particular. So let's go back and kind of review what I've gone through so far. So we started off with our exam geometry. As I explained, it's an analysis tool. It is not a tool that will make changes for you. From there, we talked about the dialog box within the exam geometry. Many areas that you can get in there and look at just by going and hitting your F1 key on there and going into the Sports Center and looking at what each one of these mean. I then talked about part cleanup. I warned you guys about, got to be careful with this one because this one does make changes for you. A lot of times, if you're using part family, maybe you have unused attributes that are in the background. A lot of this stuff, you don't see because you just see the solid model. This helps cleans up stuff in the background, but as I stated, you'll want to watch it because it does make changes that could affect your model. We talked about optimized face. Showed how that the optimized face went in there, and you can take a cylinder that was split from an import and make it into one. Resize, replace blend. Now this is a synchronous modeling tool here, and it shows you how you can convert it into a blend. And then the last one I'm going to show here is hill geometry. We haven't done that yet because I'm going to jump in NX, and I'm going to go over a few other things real quick. Before I do that, does anybody have any questions before I jump into NX? None at all? Okay. So here we are in NX. As one person stated, a lot of these tools can be found in your Checkmate here. If you've never run Checkmate, it's a good tool. You can set up multiple different checks from there. I was a design manager for a while, and I made all my users run this. I had particular checks that were set up that allowed individuals to go see things such as, are all my sketches constrained? Are all my stuff on the correct layers? Do I have drawings that are out of date? Stuff like that. Are all my models fully constrained in an assembly? So are my assembly constraints there? So these are tools that you can use. And as the individual, I forget who was that stated that in the chat here. Rick did. Rick stated, you know, all these issues can be found in the checkmate exam geometry combo check. That is correct, Rick. But a lot of people don't even know about the checkmate, believe it or not. But for this particular one, I'm not going to, you know, we're not going to really get into the checkmate. I just wanted to point that out, that those checks are in there. In this particular model here I have a model that I created. It does have two bodies. I am only going to concentrate on this single body right now. So within this single body here, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to look at a couple things. We have our exam geometry. In this case, I am just going to pick the face of this. Notice there are multiple faces, but I'm just going to pick this one particular face right now, and I'm going to go in and examine it. Notice right now we have one area that has self-intersect. Difficult to see because it's just one face. So what do I want to do here? Well, I'm going to highlight this and go back, and I'm going to do myself an optimized face on this. I'm going to go and select this particular face here, and I'm going to leave everything as it is, and I'm going to say OK and apply it. And it's going to come back and give me a report. Now, before I had only 18 features, now I got 48. The big one here is B surface. I had one, and now it's created 11. If I come in here, I'm going to turn this off for 1 second, this face edges. This is the default now. No face edges. I don't like that particularly myself. So because right now, you know, it's hard to tell that there's other faces in there. It's hard to see edges. So what I'll often do is I'll come over here, and you can do this in your customer defaults or your file, you know, if you have yourself some templates set up, come up here and change the preference to face edges. That way I can see my face edges. So now we can see where it broke it up to. Notice this face here and all these little faces over here. Now this particular one here, what you would possibly have to do is come in here and use your delete. I'm going to turn off the hill here because I'm going to go ahead and actually leave the hill on for a second. And if I try to delete that, notice it's going to give me an alert and tell me it can't do that. So this would be an area where you would have to turn off the hill, go ahead and select that and say OK. And then you would have to do some surfacing. You may have to come in here and create some edges because a fill is not going to work in this case, in this area. You might have to go and create some edges, some curves, and maybe use through curves and stuff, depending on what you're trying to achieve. Now, if you want to see that done, again, I have a tech talk that was, you know, completely on the surfacing. I just wanted, in this particular one, look more towards, you know, the tools to clean it up. Now these faces here, notice a lot of those faces are there. Maybe we don't want all those, right? So let's go ahead and delete those and leave the hill on this time. And let's go ahead and rotate this and look at the ones at the bottom also. Notice it gave me an alert there because I needed to select the rest of these faces that are right here. And I think we got one more right there. And notice how clean and smooth that's gotten now. So this may be good enough for you, even with this area right here. It all depends on what you're trying to do. Maybe this is just a prototype. Maybe this is something that actually has a secondary operation to it. Maybe it's something that has some surface to it, some texture. And you know, you're really not concerned of that. If you are concerned of that, you can also come over to your analysis, use your reflection, turn on your zebra here, and take a look and see, you know, how smooth it is and figure out if it's good enough for you. So there may be some analysis you have to do depending on what you're trying to achieve. So that there was, you know, just using optimized face and using my exam geometry. So let me go back and take this all the way back to optimized faces if we just first open this up. Now you guys notice I had these icons up here. I added these icons. Now a simple way to add these icons, guys, is to be in the tab you want it to go into. Come up to your search. If I, for example, said part cleanup, guys, and I came down and hit this, that's going to take me straight into my dialog. That's not what I want in this case. What I want to do is I want to come in and say part cleanup, type it all the way out, go and hit my little button right here that says search, and it's going to bring it up in another search tab here, and that will give me the information on commands, customer defaults. You got preferences, discovery, checkmate tests. Inside here, though, what I want to do is I'm going to select this, right click, and notice I can add to the ribbon. Right now it's going to say current tab and home. It's grayed out because I already have it there. So that's a quick way, guys, that you can add stuff to your tab. All right, and someone is asking, is there a link available to see your previous instructions on Surface? Yes, there is. That would be in our customer on our PROLIM YouTube channel, and I can show that at the end YouTube channel. So somebody was asking, guys, within the chat if there was a link for my Surface. Okay, so as we go along, though, so that's all I did to add these particular tabs, guys. So let's go ahead and look at our next one, which is the, we looked at exam. Let's go ahead and look at part cleanup. So inside the part cleanup, I'm going to go ahead and reset this. Notice when you reset it, default, none of these are checked. I'm going to go ahead and check everything just so I can show you the warning it gives us when we go through and we use this part cleanup. Again, I recommend that when you're using part cleanup, to actually go in and, you know, revise or have a part that you're going to use, you know, as a test for it. Because you don't know exactly what's going to happen sometimes. So in this case, I'm going to say, okay. Notice right away, you're about to remove all assembly specific changes made to the color, translucency, font, component geometry, blah, blah, blah. Again, this talks about, you know, if you're changing, are you sure you want to do this? If I'm satisfied with that, I say yes. It's going to keep on going. You're on to delete all spreadsheets and visual editor data. So if you have any rendering or if you have any spreadsheets, stuff like that, it's going to delete that stuff. In this case, I'm just going to say yes. Notice we didn't see anything visually changed because most of that stuff that it talked about are in the background. So be careful when using part cleanup. But there are times where even if you put in a customer support ticket with us, I may tell you, hey, let's do a revision. Let's run the part cleanup. And then let's see when you open up your part if you're still getting these particular errors or if it's sped up opening a file. It's just allowing me to help you troubleshoot so we can say, okay, yes, it's something within that part cleanup that's causing the issue. Then we may have to, you know, do certain sections, put, you know, once check one on, one off. I know it's tedious, but we may have to do something like that. So the part cleanup can be used in that way too. All right, now let's go ahead and look at, before I do hill geometry, let's go ahead and look at replace blend. So replace blend here, in this case, I can replace my blend. If I tilt and inherit from the face, it's going to recognize how that blend is and the size of it, and that's what I'm going to get there. If I don't tilt and inherit, I can go in here and change this to whatever size I want. You notice if I say show results, we're going to get, and it's going to come in, and let's go 5. Oh, I didn't have my number lock on, guys, so when I typed in my 5, it did not change it. There you go. So when I change it there, you can see what your change is going to be. Again, here's my help here, or if I hit F1 on my keyboard, it's going to go and take me into my support center. Notice this time we are in 2506, where the other ones I was bringing up were 2412, just because I'm in the newer version of NX now. So again, it shows exactly what it is, talks about replace blends and all that information. All right, so now let's go ahead and look at hill geometry. Has anybody here ever used hill geometry? Has anybody in here ever used some of these tools that I've been showing today? David, okay. All right, so we got 2. You got a question? Oh, or you're just raising your hands. Okay, showing that you, okay, never mind. All right, so we've had several, a few individuals that used it in here. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is just show the hill geometry. Steve, do you have a question, or are you just saying that you've used it?
Just saying I've used it, Brian.
All right, all right. All right, so from here we're going to go on, guys, and moved it on. So we're going to move on a little bit more here, and we're going to look at ourselves some hill geometry. Notice the hill geometry. This is the default that the tolerance comes in at. And we're going to specify an output file. In this case, I've already done this myself, so it's going to go and replace this particular file, is it going to tell us. So I'm going to say that's good. I'm going to say OK, and we're going to run this. Now with this, you notice it gives us information on what it did. Simplified 2 geometries and did nothing else to this other portion. Now, like I said, this is a brand new part. It's not in the surface test part anymore. If I come over here to my history, here it is, this particular part here. Now notice that looks a little different than the optimized face. It actually came in and created another edge here and one here. But we also had that area here where we had some issues. Now if I came in here and I did another delete on this, we'll notice I have hill. It allows me to go in there. Notice I get this alert because it wants this face also. Once it's satisfied, the alert goes away. And we're able to go in there. Now, you may have to do a combination to figure out what is the best results for you. As you notice here, this splits this into 3 pieces now. Well, it's still one solid, but it splits it into 3 faces there. It may be good enough, like I said, if you're using it for a prototype, or if it has, like I said, any type of texture. But if you're using this like a car panel, something like that, it may not be good enough. If you're using this, just as a representation of a part that you guys purchase and you got a model from a customer, and every time you go to load it, it's having issues, and you just want that part in there as a representation to be part of your bill of material, this may be good enough also. Whereas I showed in here, if I ran the optimized face, and I'll run it again, we're going to get where it splits it up a little bit different, but we do get that one smooth face around here when we go to delete these faces out. And then you can come in there, like I said, and use some surfacing, to get that result. So it depends on what you need. How to access the design model and module. Design Center. You're seeing that at the top of my particular. So somebody asked, guys, I'm sorry, I should have said I'm reading something from the chat. Somebody asked, how do I get to the Design Center modeling, right? Reality is, this is just NX. They just changed that title at the top. All right, so with that being said now, so what did we go through, guys? Again, went through all these tools right here. Exam geometry, part cleanup, optimize face, replace blend, and hill geometry. Concludes my demonstration right now. And